Hey everyone, it's Simone, and I'm here with Bella Crystal for today's soul communication, which I am so excited about. It's the five, and the five is my life's work, and I cannot wait to hear what the five has to say. I think I've been looking forward to this all year, so it's super exciting. Thanks for joining us. We love your participation and co creation. And Bella, for those people who are new in our series that is brought to you by Unlock Your Design, the 64 Doors, and the Living Matrix, can you tell people what's going on?
Wow, I see that Phoebe is even up watching us, and it's super, super late in the UK. So this is super exciting. So we're tapping in with the sun, with the transit. So the sun is going to be in a gene key, in a gate, and hexagram. We are following the sun around the wheel, and we're tapping into that archetype. So today we're going into the five, and we love to co-create with you. So if you have the five or you don't have the five, either in your human design or your gene keys, if you have questions about it, maybe your partner has it, maybe you want to be able to use the energy of patience or timelessness, or what these virtues of the five. This is a really beautiful way of tuning in. I have my big binder with me because every week I'm writing down things that Simone is bringing through that then kind of work in me. It's really illuminating. So I'm super excited for today, and I would love you. I see that we already have Amanda, Karen, a lot of people on. So please, if there's some intuition of something that needs to be shared, that needs to be asked, I would love you to be here with us and have this experience together, and also tag people with the five or share it in your groups on your profile, so that we can illuminate the archetypes in a way that is more intuitive and not only through the books and the cards and the things that are already written.
All right, well, let's see what the five has to say tonight. I like to communicate with Jinky 5, Gate 5, Hexagram 5, the purpose of healing, wisdom, the highest good of all. Oh my goodness. The five started with an explosion of a celebration, imagine New Year's Eve going off, and it was confetti and horns and just this big celebration of the five says completion. And I saw the words, you did it. And I love how playful the five is starting out with us tonight. The five is saying that while some know it as the end of time, it can also be a journey to the beginning of time. And when it says that, it shows me the journey within. So imagine a fractal, and let's imagine that fractal going into us, and imagine journeying into yourself. And as you're going in, it feels like an unwinding of the self, but it really is a deep, deep journey in. And the deeper and deeper I go in, I feel like I'm literally going through a portal inside my body, and that portal takes me into my cells, and it takes me into my DNA. And then the DNA strand, it's like I shot through the DNA strand, and then the DNA shifts and becomes something other than DNA. And it is a consciousness that is not known yet. And when I'm in it, I feel like I'm in a light field that's infinite. And then the five brought me back from this infinite ray of light all the way into a point. And then in the point, from the point, there is a reblooming. It's like suddenly I'm in life again. And the five's talking about this continuing cycle of going in, and this continual cycle of going in and rebirthing, if you will, perpetually, unending, is the process of growth. And simultaneously, we learn nothing. It's everything and nothing. It's silence. It takes us to the place of everything and silence, if you will. And it looks at me and it says, "How do you like this cycle?" And I said, I'm saying back to it, I'm okay with it. I feel comfortable with it. Uh, I'm enjoying it. And when I said I was enjoying it, it showed me that once you get comfortable with this internal contemplation, if you will, and that spiraling in, and once you are really at one with it, it morphs into something else. Just when you think you know it so intimately, it's almost like driving down a road that you've driven so many times, and you drive down that road like um, with cellular memory, and you know every pothole, and you know every twist and turn, and then suddenly you know it's like a part of you, and then suddenly it morphs into something else, and it's infinite, old, and new all at once. And he said, the five looks at me and he says, "How do you like this?" And I'm saying, I'm laughing because I'm okay with it. I love the five so much. Like, it doesn't matter what the road is, or what the roller coaster is, or what the stillness is. I'm so in love with the five, and now the five is just laughing, and just totally laughing, and he's like saying to me, "Not everybody is." And that the five says that some experience the five uh, without such grace, that the five can be challenging. It can totally feel like a roller coaster ride. And he jokingly said the roller coaster ride to hell and back. Um, and it can feel like, the stairway to heaven and bliss. And he says that it really depends on where the five is in your chart. And that does play a role in how you experience the five, and um, especially the aspect of timelessness and patience, if you will, and knowing and acceptance. And when he said the word acceptance, he brought me into this place, felt it all over my body. It was just like such a softening. And if we had an equation, it would be acceptance equals softening, softening equals acceptance. And that equation, if you will, feels like a key code of sorts. And the five is talking about how, for some, and in some places in the chart, it can be, the five can be the key to freedom. That patience, acceptance, softening are keys to freedom. And I think he's prodding me a bit because he says, for those of you who wish you had the 55, the five is the key to the 55 in terms of um, acceptance and patience and then freedom. That if you truly experience the five, um, you experience freedom. And Bella, the five is beckoning you. He wants to talk and enjoy and be in community and conversation.
Wow, I'm so happy for the people in the chat as well. I feel the co-creation already. I have a question that's a little bit maybe kind of plain, but I am actually really curious. What's the difference of having the five in the life's work and having the five in the purpose? Like I know that there is a difference, and I would love to hear it explained by the five.
Wow. The five shows me it took me to the life's work, and it took me to the purpose sphere, if you will. And when it brought my awareness and attention into the life's work, I literally felt the essence of freedom. And it was so much lighter. And when it's in the purpose sphere, there is a density of consciousness because it shows me that it's harder to get to its true essence because it takes life, it takes the life experience for so many to get to their purpose. It's saying, sure, there's some people who wake up and they have immediate consciousness, children who have immediate consciousness of, I'm here for this. But that's, not the general case. For most people, it is the trajectory of life. And that going through all the doors of life, all the ups and downs, all the joys and sorrows, and, every kind of possible experience. And the five says that it, in embodiment, it requires the journey for most people to get that knowing of their purpose. And simultaneously, there's this aspect of going through the purpose, going through, your life, can create other shadows, if you will. It can create conditioning, and those things kind of pile up over the purpose, especially when you have the five. So even when you've gone through you're going through your life and you're committed to your journey, and even when you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, if you're conditioned, it's almost like a veil over the five, a sheet over the five. So it's not impossible to pull over pull off the, move out of the veil of conditioning and life experience, and experience the five in the purpose. But then the five has such a sense of humor. It started tapping its foot like, what are we going to get there? So it can feel for the person who has the five in the purpose, it can feel like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And now I get the joke, like, because the impatience, right? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And so the five is showing how it can be denser in the purpose from the life's work. For some reason, people who have it in their life's work don't experience the same kind of challenges that the five presents in purpose. But when you break through, it is the most incredible light. Imagine where you have seen the most beautiful sky, and the sky, it's like a partly cloudy day, and the sun is dancing with the clouds, and they're in the most beautiful formation, and the clouds open, and you see the sun in all of its delight. That's what the five can feel like in the purpose sphere when you have that. And the five flashed me the word epiphany. And then imagine the quintessential epiphic experience. That's when you finally break through with the five in your purpose. That's what you can feel like. And it shows me that conversely, the five in the life's work, it doesn't really feel like that epiphany, I guess, I hope you understand what I'm saying, the beata experience. um it it's a little bit different because in the life's work, you don't have that kind of beatific experience that you have when the five is in the purpose. So it's a completely different experience of how you get there, when you get there, how you experience it, and how it affects other keys in the profile because of that trajectory, if you will. Interesting.
Yeah, I feel when you say that, I feel like there's both like a general thing, the difference between having something in your personality sun as opposed to having it in your design earth, because that's the planets that are coding life's work and purpose. I also feel like it's kind of accentuated for exactly the five. That's I feel why it came through. I have two more questions, and there are some questions in the chat, but I see we have people on with very different line expressions. Like, you have it in a fourth line, Simone, we have in a third line for Brandon, Amanda in a first line. And then Eden is saying Mark is having it in the second line. I guess that's her partner. I think Karen has it in a sixth line. Will you speak a little bit about the line expressions of the five? If there's maybe one that's more challenging, or one like, or even I don't know how you want to thread it, but is there any line of the five they kind of want to come through and tell us something?
Well, the first thing the five did was took me to the first line expression, and it in my body, when I got to the first line expression, I felt so grounded, which is a different experience than the way I experienced the five. And it felt really comforting to me in in the body. And then I saw the word patience, and I kind of had an aha of um, when you have a first line and you're able to experience patience on a deep level inside the body, how amazing that must feel. And then the five takes me right to the three, and um, it's showing me that the five in a line three body is kind of like being on a turbulent airplane.
Brandon, I hope you hear this. I think you're a third line. How is it? Can you write something for us?
It's like it says, "Oh shit, are we gonna crash?" And then immediately grabs the hand of the person sitting next to it and says, "I love you. I'm so grateful you're here with me." So it's like knowing the plane isn't gonna crash, grateful for your seatmate. And the water that you have to drink, but simultaneously being terrified. And then, to have patience through all of that is the expression of the five in the third line, So imagine being, holding the vibration of patience while you're not sure, you're on a turbulent plane. You don't know what's going to happen. Where you're gonna bounce into the seat behind you or through the cockpit in the front. And yeah. And then it takes me to the four line, and it's saying it's interesting because in a four line, line 4 body or expression, while you're in your heart, if you're feeling other people, it can feel a bit like a similar energetic pattern to the 3 line, but you don't even know you're on the plane. So imagine, you're walking through a house that's inside a plane, but you think you're in home, and so you don't understand the turbulence, that you're experiencing. So when you're in the 4 line, but and that presents different challenges for the patients of, why am I experiencing this? And to have patience when you don't understand why you're experiencing something. That's the challenge of the 4 line. And the 5 line, oh my gosh, again, the tapping of the tapping of the hand, and I'm suddenly in the 5 line body. He was the leader, and I heard, when are they going to get it? When are they going to get it? When are they going to get it? So to have patience with the people you're leading can be the challenge, and a little bit similar energy in the 6th line. It's like, when are they going to get it? When are they going to get it? But there's not the tapping. It's just like, it's like being outside the plane, and you're trying to get in, and nobody knows you're there and waiting to get in the plane. It's like, let me in the plane. I'm here. I want to share the information with you. When are they going to let me in? When are they going to let me in? But there's not this pattern, this energy inside the body with the 6th line. So that's super interesting.
Well, I love that. I want to go through the lines now for each. Like we're gonna have to do a second round next year, where we're gonna go through, like, for all of them, the lines. And I want to make sure. I mean, this is a technical question. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna bring it up because I know that Phoebe's staying up in the UK at like 3 a.m. or something, and she has the 5.6 in the North Node, so the one that wants to get in the plane. And how does that relate in relation to her 6 line? In relation to the 6 line, and how does it come from her 35.6? So yeah, I think this is like, yeah, you're gonna get the geometry. I don't really even, like, I have to think about it. So what's coming up for you, Simone?
Sorry, I had muted myself. It's this great adventure that isn't even known, and so the patience inside the self to understand that you're bringing in this adventure that isn't even known yet. And yet there's this pressure of the 35, and how do you stay patient with the pressure of the 6th line and the 35 in order to then bring that in for everyone. And so the way the 5 is having me experience it in my own body, it's like knowing that you don't know what you need to know, and yet feeling the pressure in the body and having the patience to go, okay, I don't know what I don't know, and yet I know I'm going to know it. It's a matter of being patient and just kind of going into that energy, that pressure in your body, and softening until the 5 like almost marries the 35 energetically. And when the 5 marries the 35 energetically in your field, it's like that pressure hues into dissipation. Think about how the sky will hue into a different color so gradually that you don't. How did you get? It reminds me of going the night sky. The sun goes down so gently. Gently. Where did we go from light to darkness? And that's kind of when you go into that pressure of the 35 with your 5 and just soften into it. The pressure just completely hues into a vibratory feel. And if you can be patient and work with that field, it's in a sense what opens it up. So, the 5 is just showing that, first off, your awareness. So this is the pressure of the 35. Okay, where is it in my body? Is it in my whole field? Is it in part of my field? Is it specific? Is it general? And then just be with it. Be with it. I see you, pressure of the 35. I feel you. And it's like the perpetual gaze. It's like gaze at it as if it's the last sight you'll see. And it's the softening, softening. And then it's as if the 35 and the 5 were separate when we started this contemplation, this softening into. And then suddenly it's like they are a unified field, a sacred union. And then it's not to give up. There's more presence, more patience, just being in that universe, that unified field. And then that's when the magic starts to happen. And the 5 shows it to me like imagining you planted a garden and the seeds are coming up. And then there's this oddball thing that starts blooming. And you're like, I didn't plant that. That's not in the row. But it's this sacred blooming, this thing that blossoms up as a surprise. And then it's the curiosity of, well, what is this? And not to make it wrong. It's like, it's not to go to the place, well, that's not in my straight row, and I didn't plant that. And what is it? It's like, oh, what is this? What is this specialness that's blooming? And to continue to stay with the energy and that soft gaze, that focus, and it's patience. And the 35 almost wants to pressure you and say, oh, come on, I want to go on my adventure. Chop, chop. There can be an impatience within the 35, but the adventure is that sacred union of the two energies, and it's the commitment to stick with it and not abandon the union.
Yeah, it sounds like Phoebe is getting it. And it's funny, he had issues with Wi-Fi and he's saying he needs to go back about the 5.3 and screen record it because it's so spot on. So it's cool.
Thanks, Brenda, for being with us too.
Let's see if we have anything we didn't address. I mean, yeah, I guess that with a 35 and the 5, if you guys aren't completely familiar with the wheel, they are programming partners. That's what I was first, like, not feeling into the geometry. And one is Sagittarius and one is Gemini. So that's where the nodes are still right now. Yeah, the nodes are right now. So there is something too, if you have the 35 and the 5. So if you have the cross of consciousness, for example, or you have the 35-5 together with the 47-22, then you're going to, like, the nodes are going to be in the signs of your incarnation cross. And I think there is something with that kind of accentuates right now because you have your incarnation cross that kind of energies is what kind of comes up for me. I don't know, is there anything that comes up for you when, with the Sagittarius and the Gemini energy and the opposition between those energies, Simone? Is there anything to add to that?
Just personally, I'm going to admit that as a younger person, I was very impatient with Geminis. Like, I felt like, they were all over the place. They'd tell me something and I'd proceed forward with that and I'd complete it. And then I'd come back and they're like, well, I didn't mean that really. Or, like, and it when I developed patience in myself, it's like I went into sacred union with Gemini energy, and now I adore the people in my life who are Gemini, and I realized it was a balance, a patience within myself, and and flexibility and the adventure, and yeah, I guess when my patience married the adventure in my body, that's when I really experienced so much joy with Gemini and my Gemini beings in my life. And now I adore them. And I really do feel such an affinity with Gemini now. So did that, uh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I have one more question. And it's like, so we have Karen, and she has the 5 and the 35, the programming partners, and she have them together with the 47 and the 22. I guess that's a cross of separation, if I remember right. And I think, so she's a Gemini, a Gemini with a cross of separation. So 535 paired with 47 and 22, as opposed to the other cross with the 35 and the 5, which is the one that you have, Simone, with the 63 and the 64. And we have a couple of people with that as well. Would you say, what's the difference between the cross of consciousness and the cross of separation? Is there anything that wants to come through for those two crosses that both have the 5 in them?
Well, the 5 is saying that the split is in a different place in the field. And that makes all the difference in the world because of the come from in the split. And the 5 is taking my awareness to like the lower chakras, the creative abode and third chakra, and then taking my awareness to the fourth chakra. And it's showing that, when it does that, I immediately go to the upper trigram and the lower trigram. And the 5 is saying that a chief difference is come from in the heart. And that the cross of separation can be confusing because you can feel like you're not coming from the heart when you truly are, because the creative genius is a purity of heart consciousness. And it says that if you can imagine a heart in your creative abode, and as a shaman, I see every chakra within every chakra. And so when the 5 shows us the heart in the 2, the heart in the creative abode, the heart in the third chakra, creating with love, manifesting your life with love, through love. When you can adjust your come from to include the heart, that's when you can find a peace and peacefulness and thus patience with the was it cross of separation, um, that joins you, reconnects you with your heart. And the cross of consciousness, it shows me more gently or easily comes from the heart. And so that makes it a bit easier for some. But there's also the challenge of um, judgment, that if you forget to be heart centered when you have the cross of consciousness, that judgment can reign the day, and then that causes separation. So it's that's what the five wants to share.
That makes sense to me. No, having people with both. I have quite a lot of people with both crosses actually. More with the cross of consciousness, but also knowing people with other cross. So I'm looking in the chat. Yeah, I think does anybody have any other questions? It feels like there might be something more. Or is there anything else, Simone, that you want to add that hasn't been touched on yet? I love also Karen says, I feel like separation can be creative retreat. And that's what I felt in, especially weird, actually, especially in transpersonal cross of separation. I felt that kind of creative retreat, and then they come back and they serve the world somehow. Yeah, that's really what I feel with that. That's super cool.
That makes so much sense, with the five showing us to, have your heart and your creative abode. Creative retreat is like creative self-love. So that's beautiful, Karen. Thank you so much for sharing that, and I love it. The five just return to that the celebration scene of the new year, almost ringing in the new year with the five. And um, it feels like a perpetual celebration. What if it were New Year every day? There's no end to the new year. There's no that it just feels like such a celebration. And um, almost you don't even know what you're celebrating, but life is a celebration. And um, maybe the five speaking directly to me, or I'm not sure, but I'm so grateful for that image. I'll hold it in my heart, to celebrate patience and timelessness. And when I had that awareness of having that celebration in my heart, the five showed me that that's, in a sense, um, timelessness, because there's no impatience. You showed me the words receiving love. Mm.
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 And maybe there is a closing. Phoebe was saying, so I was just checking where we are. So right now the sun is still in gate 5 in the 6th line, and it's like half through it. So it's gonna be very soon, like during the night here, it's going to go into the next gate, which is the 26th. So maybe it's weird, maybe question, but does the 5 has anything to say of like the next transit, the taming power of the great, and the salesman, the trickster, the hypnotist? Is there anything for the energy that we're moving into that the 5 want to leave us with?
Honestly, it doesn't want to go into anticipation of the other gate. It wants to be present right now with it in the 5. It really doesn't want to go to the 26. It wants to really, it's like, don't rush me. It says, though, that it would be glad to talk to us about the 26 when we're not in the 5 transit. but it really wants us to sink in the five transit and like lap up the inner, the whole transit, and not be in a rush to move to the next one. And he's saying, I'm not unwilling to talk to you about the 26, but let's talk about it when we're in the 26. So maybe when we do the 26, we'll pull in the five and then see what it has to say. But the five is like luxuriate right now. We're in a celebration. Why move out of it and be in the other energy of it? And he goes, and then he kind of like says, makes a joke and says, well, when the Citic expression of timelessness, you're already experiencing the 26 because you're experiencing them all. So kind of has it, is a little, but that's about, it really wants us to luxuriate in the presence of the five energy, to lap up every drop of patience and timelessness.
Simone, I felt that. So my purpose is the seventh gene key, and the dilemma is boundaries. And
Mm.
I also have a completely open ego. So I've had that thing in my life, like the boundaries. And when I think about you, when I think about Richard, when I think about Ashley, when I think about people with a five, because it has this fixed rhythm. And
Mm.
I have that feeling that sometimes it actually just says no. I'm not willing to go into the 26. No, I'm not. And it's like, for me, also as a 4-6, it's been a bit shocking. Or, it's sometimes not saying no. It's like you sometimes like, okay, let's get the credit card out and buy this domain. It's like, it can say yes or no in a way where it's like, it's a very clear boundary. It's going to happen now. It's not going to happen now. And for me, not having the 15 or the 5 or the rhythm in that sense, it's something that I can like really feel into and be, influenced by, because it's like, okay, no, I can't, that the rhythm of the 5 is there. And if you don't like, there's no way of manipulating it, because they're going to be very clear and very clean in a way, with that knowing of like, this is a rhythm, this is where we are still in 5.6. Let's be here.
Right, but it also says it can be confusing, because if you're the 6 line 5, you're already expanded out. You're in the time, you have the capacity to be in the timelessness, and you know that you're bringing it in, and the time is now. But let's say you're a 5 line 5, and you're the leader of now, and you feel like you're leading um, from the pinnacle of
Mhm.
that expression, but you're not into the 6 line. So when the 6 line comes in and says, oh, but here, and you're shutting down because you're not in that 6 line energy. So, it can be confusing. And then if you're a 1st line and you're just so rooted in the body with patience, nothing, it makes me, the 5 brings me to mountain pose in my body. Nothing could knock me over. I'm rooted, and I'm not going anywhere because I have the perfect vibration of the 5, and I don't need to move anything. I could be this mountain pose forever. I can outlast, I could outlast you all in mountain pose, right? And so there can be um a con- a confusion, if you will, and the 5 is saying there's no right, there's no wrong. It's the rhythm in your body, and but it in its explaining, I can understand how sometimes I know it's time to move. This is the flower has sprung up, and I'm seeing it, and it's right there, and it's time to do what I need to do to nurture that into life. And other people are like, nope, I'm mountain, and I'm going to just watch it grow. And so it can feel confusing when we experience the different rhythms of the 5. And again, there's no right or wrong. There just is the expression. And then when you bring in all the other key codes in your, or gates in your profile, it makes it that much more complex. But what it says is, if you go to your come from, so it's bringing me into my body, and it's asking me, in a sense, am I patient in my impatience? That's an odd way of putting it, but in a sense, if I'm the 6 line 5 and I'm bringing something in, and it's time for it to be born, and I know that it's time to be born, and I'm in relationship with other rhythm setters like the 5 or the 15 who are in different lines. What's my come from? Can I patiently explain why? Can I help them understand the rhythm in my own field and teach them, or be the energy of it so they open up to it? So it's the come from of expression. um, the 5 shows me, which is really brilliant. I love it.
Mhm.
I think
And
the 5 could
I
go on like for a book, a treatise on this, what it's sharing with the different vibrations of the lines in the 5.
yeah, and I would also kind of just say that we are launching Door 5, and we are going to tell you about the relationship between the 35, which is the programming partner, and the 15, which is the harmonic gate. And kind of, we brought through with Simone and Ashley, like how is it influencing, like how is the 5 and the 35, like why can they be challenging? Why is the 5 and the 15? And if you remember, in the 64 doors, we are calling them the heroine for the 35 and the wild woman for the 15. So you can understand that, like, that can be a little bit challenging for the 5. But I would kind of, yeah, I would see, I would, if I were you, and I would comment on it, and have maybe ask Simone questions on that, to tag her, because I feel like she might be able to bring in something more. But yeah, there is for sure a relationship that happens, and not always super comfortable for the 5, that just kind of wants to go about his thing. So when the adventurer, the heroine, comes in there, the wild woman, it's kind of a little bit rocky in the boat. Yeah.
I love Phoebe and Ron's comments of trust and to respect universal sacred timing. Lovely, lovely. Thanks for that co-creation. Yeah. When my eyes, I don't always look at the chat when I'm channeling, but sometimes my eyes are just drawn to something, and they just rested on Ron's comment, and I felt such ease flow through my body. So really sweet, Ron. Thank you.
Yeah, Simone, let's thank you, and let's see if you want to close this in any particular way.
Well, Bella and I look forward to these every week. We thank you so much for joining us. We talk about your beautiful comments and questions, and how it enlightens us to hear the answers to your questions. And we just have loved this kind of contemplation over the year. And we would love for you to join us in the 64 doors, and unlock your design. If it feels light to work with us in a group, or you can choose to work with Ashley, Bella, and I in a soul blueprint reading, which is super fun. Bella, you want to let people know how they could work with us if that's what feels light?
Yeah, you can either just text us, and I also put the links for the readings, both the short ones and the longer ones, in the post, so you can just go and check out if it's something feels light and right for you.
Mm. My heart is so full today. I'm so grateful, Bella. Thank you for this invitation. That you extended earlier, and I think it was February when you first invited me to do this, and it has just become the highlight of my week to speak to each of the transits, the gates, the channel, the um, hex, whatever your entry point is. And as my birthday was yesterday, it feels so delightful to be here with each of you. And thank you for joining us.